declare the meeting open at 10:08 a.m. Councillor attendance, all members are here. We'll move along to declarations of interest in matters on the agenda. Councillor Milligan, you've given notice, so I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Chair. For a matter of personal interest in ordinary business, in accordance with Section 150EF of the Local Government Act 2009, I, Councillor Russell Milligan, inform the meeting that I have a personal interest in Item 2, titled New Trustee Lease over Reserve for Recreation Purposes to Rosewood RSL Sub-Branch Incorporated over 1 Mill Street, Rosewood. The nature of the personal interest is that I am an ordinary member of Rosewood RSL Sub-Branch.
Thank you for your forthcoming disclosure, Councillor Milligan. Members of the committee, how would you seek to resolve the matter?
Chair, I think the legislation is quite specific that if you're a member, and all of us are members of different groups, it's not an issue, it's if you're an office bearer. So I move that Councillor Milligan participates and votes on item 2. I'll just look at the title of it, which is the new trustee lease over reserve for recreation purposes to Rosewood RSL Sub-Branch over 1 Mill Street, Rosewood. And I think a reasonable person would trust that the final decision is made in the public interest.
All right, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Kunzelman. Any discussion? We'll put it to the vote. Those in favour of accepting the motion? That's unanimous, bar Councillor Milligan, who hasn't voted as the matter was pertaining to his declared personal interest. Thank you, Councillor Milligan, for being forthcoming. Made it very administratively simple this morning. So we'll move on to the first item of today's agenda, the confirmation of minutes. Do any councillors wish to discuss the minutes? Okay. Would anybody like to move that? Councillor Milligan, seconder. Councillor Doyle. I'll put the matter to the vote. Those in favour of accepting the minutes? That's unanimous and carried. Item 2 for today's agenda is the new trustee lease over reserve for recreation purposes to Rosewood RSL Sub-Branch Incorporated over 1 Mill Street, Rosewood. Do any members of the committee wish to talk to an officer about this one this morning? No. And that being dealt with, who would like to move that this morning? Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Kunzelman. Any discussion on the matter, Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to point out that the RSL and many of our community groups do great work. I'm delighted that we are giving long-term surety and stability to these organisations. So in the last 15 months since becoming elected, speaking to a lot of community organisations, having the year-to-year they feel as though they get their residency based on a whim, not saying this particular organisation. So I think it's terrific that we are working with each of these important community groups and giving them some type of surety. So a 10-year term with a yearly rent of $1 if demanded, I think is a great result for the Rosewood and Ipswich community in general.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Milligan.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to reiterate further the Mayor's remarks in that Rosewood RSL Sub-Branch plays an integral role in the community, supporting serving and former defence members and their families. Traditionally, sub-branches across the nation deliver commemoration services such as Anzac Day, dawn services and parades, Remembrance Day services, as well as other important memorial services. These events are highly valued by community, and as we see, numbers in attendance are generally increasing year on year. Personally, as a member of the RSL, I'm proud to see Ipswich City Council supporting one of our local sub-branches to continue serving the community in the way they have.
Thank you, Councillor Milligan. I'd concur. We have a number of very good and strong RSL sub-branches in the city. We're a big defence city. We all have friends and family who've served, and yeah, it's great to see council get around that. I will put the matter to the vote. Those in favour of accepting the recommendations, that's unanimous and carried. We'll move on to item 3 for this morning, the procurement matter for supply and maintenance of multi-function device / printers, MFDs. Would any members of the committee like to talk to an officer about this matter? Okay then, would anybody like to move it? Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Milligan. Any discussion? Mayor?
Chair, I commend the organisation for bringing this to our attention, and it's great to see that the new governance processes in our organisation are well and truly working. If you go to page 21, you will see that it states that this particular contract, this extension, at no point does it appear that it was ever taken to council for resolution. This should have occurred at its inception due to the term being for 3 + 1 + 1 + 1, and again in 2018 when the value reached $2 million in spend. And the current spend from 2010 to 2021 is $2.8 million. So I commend the organisation for following good governance processes, making sure that these type of items do need to come to council for resolution, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion? I'll put the recommendations to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. We'll move on to item 4 for today, which is the Ivolve Project quarterly status update. Call on the relevant council officer present.
Chair, if I may, I'll act as the relevant council officer for this one.
Well, you're relevant to all matters. In
Thank
one
you for
way
the
or
reminder.
With your former GM Corporate Services hat, I guess. As you see, I'm looking at page 26, and I guess one of the paragraphs there talks about there's been some delays in bringing on the business partner strategic advisor. Will this delay the program at all?
Thank you, Mayor. These, as I know you will appreciate, through the Chair, are very important decisions, and so we are undertaking all necessary due diligence and very thorough evaluation in making in coming to the decisions in relation to the business partner in particular. So it has, as you can see from the report, we did anticipate that both the business partner and strategic advisor could have been on board by early to mid-July. So we now advise that the strategic advisor response and outcome could be achieved by early to mid-September 2021, and we are continuing in the throes of an outcome on the business partner. So we will do everything that we can to make up the time that has been lost here, but I would have to say that we will need to reassess the timeframes. I, however, have, allowed this and approved that this path be taken because the use of ratepayers' money for this very important project is critical, and we have to make the right decision. So I feel it's overall in the public interest that we make the right decision at this phase, and as I said, we'll do everything that we can to make the time up for the very important project. So once we have moved through the next month and a half, we'll be able to reassess those timeframes and provide a further update.
Thank you, Acting CEO. In the report, attachment 1, there's a major focus areas, key concerns and opportunities. One of them there is based on appropriate resourcing in place, and in brackets, skills, experience and capability. And item 3 under key project controls is accessing the right people and ensuring availability as and when needed. I note that the commentary there states that identified resource needs are not fully supported, particularly in relation to the need for specialist skills. Do you mind explaining what that means and what the impact will be to the project? It's on page 30 of 48.
Thank you, Mayor. I have it. So this is reflecting one of the key reasons for the path that's been so far chosen to engage a business partner is so that we do bring in the necessary change management skills and expertise to supplement what we currently have as our internal team. So we are very concerned, given the scale of this project, that we do manage it effectively. As the reports, the status update notes and previous updates have noted, we've taken very seriously the lessons learned through various inquiries and reviews of ICT implementations, including those of the Queensland Audit Office. And as I'm sure the committee appreciates, change management is vital in ensuring an effective implementation of a new platform for this organisation. So we are really stressing there the need to ensure that we do have effective change management resources brought in that we don't currently have for this project at its current stage.
Thank you. For my last question, in the very beginning of that attachment one, there's a project health comments, and it states, this project is considered to be high risk and the committee should be aware that success of the project would largely depend on appropriate senior stakeholder support and authority, with an understanding and commitment that this project will involve deep cultural change and business transformation. It's not merely a technology project. May I ask for you to comment on how that senior stakeholder engagement and buy-in is at this stage?
Thank you, Mayor and Committee Chair. It remains a critical priority, as we've highlighted there. As we reported when the preliminary business case was finalised and brought forward to this committee and to council, the senior stakeholder engagement and buy-in was very satisfactory. It was high during the preliminary business case. We have continued to work with the ICT Steering Committee, which is comprised of the CEO role and all of the general managers of this organisation, continuing to brief them on the progress. So I would say, Mayor, that it is satisfactory, but it is a critical ingredient, and we need to continue to ensure that we have their full commitment to the approach that we take. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting CEO.
Thank you, Acting CEO. Any further questions there? None. Would any members of the committee like to move that the report be accepted? Mayor Harding, seconded by Councillor Milligan. Any discussion? Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. And I know I'll probably bang on about this, but we do spend, when you benchmark our council against other similar councils, we do spend an extraordinarily higher amount of money and proportionate amount of our budget on IT. So I guess that's why we are looking at this quite closely still as a board to make sure that this is a real opportunity for our organisation to, I guess, harness technology in a better way, be more efficient, so we can, release more money for, roads and other services that we want to deliver. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll put the matter to the vote that the report be accepted. That's unanimous and carried. We'll move on to the fifth item for today's agenda, the councillor briefing sessions and workshops policy. Do any members of the committee have questions for officers? That being the case, we'll look for somebody to move the recommendation. Mayor Harding, seconded by Councillor Doyle. Any discussion, committee members? Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. I think Ipswich City Council probably quite proudly say that they're the most open and transparent council in Australia with our Transparency Integrity Hub, but also a number of our processes like live streaming, these meetings. Part of this, I think we may be the only council that's doing this, but all governments, all levels of government receive briefings from their department staff and external experts. They do it at the federal level and state level, and we're just like them. We receive that. This council's taken the approach to publish the briefings that we receive, as long as they're not commercial in confidence or legal in confidence or staff in confidence. So I think it's great that we're tightening this up, this I guess policy that we brought out last year, just to make sure that when we do have briefings, it's best for us to have, it'd be preferable for us to have these briefings about 5 business days beforehand, so we can pre-read them and be prepared for those briefings and workshops that are legally allowed and things that what all levels of government do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion on the matter? All right. Well, I'll put the recommendation to the vote that the revised councillor briefing sessions and workshops policy as detailed in attachment 1 be adopted. Those for? That's unanimous and carried. There's no notices of motion or matters arising today, so I'll declare the meeting closed at 10:23 a.m.